So hard to cut off AC/DC on a Saturday morning, but hey, welcome everybody to Hey Coach Tony. I am your host, Tony Fiorino. As you know, each week on Hey Coach Tony, we hit the hottest topics in youth sports, and we always want to know what you guys have to say. So we've opened up the studio lines at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. Hope you guys didn't miss me all that much while I was on vacation last week, but this week I want to address something that we haven't talked about in a while, and that is whether or not amateur and college athletes should get paid. Now, the reason this one hit me is because, as some of you may know, Dwyane Wade of the Miami Heat made some comments this past week, as did Ray Allen, about this. And these comments kind of rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And, even though these particular individuals are, needless to say, far from amateur or college players, it did get me thinking about the whole notion of whether or not certain athletes should or should not get paid. Now, as always, I want to hear what you guys think, so give me a call, 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. Now, this specific case drew quite a bit of attention and some heat. Even ESPN's own Colin Cowherd chimed in during the week, pretty much said he thinks that these guys should get paid. Now, I don't know, but we're going to bat this one around this morning, and we are going to hear what you have to say. Now, by the way, if anybody wants to step in and talk about how this affects college athletes, particularly the football and the basketball players, feel free. Studio lines are open. But while we're waiting for your calls, I think I want to start things off by sharing with you the quotes that were given by Dwyane Wade and Ray Allen. Now, Dwyane Wade's quote was, and again I'm quoting, "It's a lot of things you do for the Olympics, a lot of jerseys you sell." This was said after the Heat's practice on Wednesday. But he also said, "We play the whole summer. I do think guys should be compensated, just like I think college players should be compensated as well. Unfortunately, it's not there, but I think it should be something, there for it." Well, I don't know, Dwyane, but Wade's comments came just one day after Ray Allen spoke to Fox Sports, and he said, "You talk about the patriotism that guys should want to play for, but you need to find a way to entice the guys. It's not the easiest thing in the world if you play deep in the playoffs and then you get 2 or 3 weeks off. Then you start training again to play more basketball where it requires you to be away from home and in another country. It's fun, but your body does need a break. Everybody says play for your country, but NBA players are commodities. You think about it. You do camps in the summer. You have various opportunities to make money. When you go overseas and play basketball, you lose those opportunities. What you may make. If I'm an accountant and I get outsourced by my firm, I'm going to make some money somewhere else." Needless to say, these comments did indeed rub some people the wrong way. The number again in the studio is 855-HEY-COACH. Adam, we haven't talked about this one in a while, buddy. You got any reactions to these first few comments that came in?
Repeat it. I was on the phone. We got a caller.
Oh, who do we got?
I think it's Steve from Katona.
Steve from Katona wants to call in. All right, you know what, Adam? You juggle so many things, man. I'm gonna give you a break.
Thanks.
And I'll reread the statements when we get back in. But we may as well get to the lines and hit it early. 855-HEY-COACH is the studio line. We will go to Steve from Katona. Hey, Steve. Good morning. You're on Hey Coach Tony. How you been, guy?
Hey, Tony. How are you?
I am doing great. What do you got for me this morning?
Well, listen. When you say amateur versus professional, or should amateurs get paid? Once they get paid, they're no longer amateurs. So if they're getting paid, by definition, they're professional. But what about something, listen, you can't pay college players because you pay them in education. You pay for their education. But what about a scenario whereby if they want to do endorsements or something along those lines, they can get paid for that? So the top guys are still going to be able to make a living, while they're in college.
You know what? I got to tell you, that is one of the biggest issues that I think is facing college athletes and their complaints about whether or not they get paid, because they're not allowed. In other words, if you bought a Dan Marino jersey when he was a college quarterback, Dan Marino saw dime zero of that money, and it is illegal. The way the rules are written right now, Steve, you cannot and will not do that. Now, and you know what? You want to hear another fun one? How many people play video games? And, EA Sports comes out with, college hoops extravaganza or college football 2012. There are people who are no longer in college whose name, likeness, statistics, etc. are being used in these video games, and because of the way the laws are currently written, they don't get paid even after they're out of college. So I think there's some reform that needs to be done. But while these kids are still in school, it's illegal. They can't get paid.
But what do you think about changing the law along those lines? That, they're not getting paid to play, but if they're selling jerseys, or if somebody's selling jerseys with their name on it, they can get money for that. They can't get paid for that.
I think that's the lowest hanging fruit in this equation, and I think it's the easiest fix because let's face it, if I'm the third string punter at Alabama, first of all, I shouldn't be complaining about not getting paid. But if you're the star, if you're the star, nobody's buying my jersey, right? But if you're the star quarterback, Steve, somebody's buying yours. And I do think with regard to things like the jerseys and the apparel, I certainly think if you're going to use a specific number and a name on a jersey, that kid absolutely is entitled to what I'll call compensation, because it's a lot different than saying the NCAA is this multi-billion-dollar machine and I just want my piece of the pie. Because let's face it, that's a weak argument, because people who say that don't know how the NCAA works, nor do they understand that football and basketball help fuel the other sports at the university. And then there's this whole issue of, and I'm glad you called and said this, Steve, because like let's just say I am the star quarterback and I just think I deserve a salary. How much do you pay me? And how much?
Don't know. And how much?
Yeah, and then how much does every starting quarterback get the same salary? No, at least something like jersey sales, you can measure. If I say, guess what, guys, you sold 30 million of my jersey, there's something measurable there. You can get a cut of that. And that's where I think the NCAA and or the schools are being very greedy. Because let's face it, you don't just put a jersey out there with some arbitrary number and have people buying it. Or maybe you do, but Andrew Luck's jersey is a lot more popular than Tony Fiorino's Mercy College shortstop jersey.
I don't know why.
You're so full of it, it's scary. Steve, man, that's a great point. You got anything else you want to share with us this morning?
No, that'll do it for now. I appreciate you taking the call, Tony.
That's a great way to start the show, man. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Take care, thanks.
You got it. Hey, Adam, I'm going to get, unless you're still on the phone, let me get back to these two quotes. Dwyane Wade said, it's a lot of things you do for the Olympics, a lot of jerseys you sell. Steve just talked about jerseys. Mm-hmm. We play the whole summer. I think guys should be compensated, just like I think college players should be compensated as well. Unfortunately, it's not there, but I think it should be something, there for it. I'm not going to get into Ray Allen's, but when you hear what Dwyane Wade says about whether or not these Olympians should get paid, what's your initial thought when you hear that from Dwyane Wade?
I think it's ridiculous.
Why? Why?
Because these guys are making millions of dollars as is. Why do we have to pay them to? If they get paid, then why don't we pay all the? Do all these other Olympians get paid to run track or do all the sports that they do? So if you're gonna pay them, you're gonna have to pay all the Olympic guys. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? That is a great point. And here's some things that we may not know. One is that, guess what? Olympic athletes do get paid.
Really?
Let me explain to you how this works. Michael Phelps, aside from the $5 million endorsements he signed right after the Olympics and like a $1 million bonus he got from Speedo, who, by the way, is going to be sponsoring me this summer when I get into my svelte Speedo body. But do you know how much he got just for his performance in the Olympics?
Well, probably a lot. An athlete like that and winning, how many gold medals did the guy win? Like 8? Yeah.
He got paid. Michael Phelps, a kid at the time, got paid $200,000 for his performance in the Olympics.
Really?
And it's not illegal. It is not under the table. Nor is it, by the way, highly publicized.
Yeah.
Now you talk about. Hang on a second, because I want to ask you a question. Okay. Dwyane Wade indeed makes millions of dollars. We know that. So do all the guys that are playing for USA Basketball. We know that. So question: let's say these guys decide it's not worth it and I don't go, and you get some scrub in there who's making $40,000 a year playing in the Continental League, and he's going to go over and spend his summer, playing over in London. Should he get paid?
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that.
All right, so now, Adam, you know how much I care for you.
Yes.
Now I'm going to explain to you why you are a big dummy, like most of the rest of the world.
Okay.
Because the idea here isn't whether or not Dwyane Wade should get paid. It's whether or not somebody representing the U.S. on the Olympic basketball team should get paid. So, and by the way, don't feel bad. Almost everybody says the same thing. If it was some guy who needed the money, then pay him. It's not about whether you need the money. It's about whether you're entitled or whether you deserve that money. So if Tony Fiorino is the best of what's left and I get to play power forward for USA Basketball and I deserve to get paid, guess what? So does Wade. So does Ray Allen. So do the rest of these guys. Questions, I think more of the questions come from where's this money going to come from?
Yeah, that's true.
Because let's face it, the Olympics as a whole is a machine. USA Basketball, by the way, is not. USA Basketball, I think it was between 4 to 8 years ago, was hemorrhaging money, losing money. I don't know if anybody knows when Colangelo took over. You can tell me. But he was interviewed yesterday on ESPN, and he said when he came in, they were losing ridiculous amounts of money. He came in and quadrupled, not doubled, not tripled, quadrupled sponsorship and revenues, and that got them to break even. So USA Basketball right now is at break even. So let's even say, by the way, that these guys deserve another $4 or $5 million a year. The question I got for Dwyane Wade, if you choose to pay attention, all right, great, you should get paid. Where's the money going to come from? And, if you're a sales guy and you're working for a company and you're killing it, but the company's not profitable, you want to raise. Where's the money going to come from? So that's one of the real issues we got there. Now, by the way, I want to remind everybody. I shouldn't say remind everybody. I want to remind Adam. My computer, the 1935 World War II special, is on the fritz this morning. So, Adam, when we got to go to break, you're going to have to jump in and let me know how much time we got, because we're also going to be highlighting 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 local athletes who have achieved Hey Coach Tony Winter Athlete of the Year status. So how are we doing on time so far?
You got another 2.5 minutes.
Well, then let's get right into this, and we're going to hit the first one. It's time for Hey Coach Tony Athlete of the Year, Winter Athlete of the Year. And it's brought to you by our good friends at Rankin Sporting Goods in Danbury, Connecticut. Rankin Sporting Goods has been family-owned and operated since 1971. Rankin prides itself on offering the very best in sports equipment for almost every sport, providing name brand, quality merchandise, selection, and service. Call Rankin at 203-743-7601 or shop online at rankinsports.com. Now, although they specialize in team sports like football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, and soccer, they do stock other sports equipment as well. And if they don't have what you're looking for, they're happy to put a special order in for you. Now, our first Winter Athlete of the Year is Casey Smith of the Danbury High School girls varsity basketball team. Casey was one of the most, if you watched any of the stuff on MSG Varsity, she was one of the most dominant post players in the whole league, helped lead the Hatters to a perfect 20-0 regular season and their first ever FCIAC title, even though she tore her ACL in the semifinal game in the league tournament against Wilton. She is a 3-time All-FCIAC and 2-time All-State player. She averaged 17.6 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 2.5 block shots per game this past season. Great job, Casey Smith, and congratulations on being named one of our 3 Hey Coach Tony Winter Athletes of the Year. And I'll remind you again, this particular segment's been sponsored by Rankin Sporting Goods. They've been family-owned and operated since 1971. Pride themselves on offering name-brand quality merchandise, selection, and service. Call Rankin today at 203-743-7601 or shop online at rankinsports.com. Specializing in team sports, if they don't have what you're looking for, they are happy to special order it for you. Call Rankin Sports today at 203-743-7601 or visit them on the web at rankinsports.com. Rankin Sporting Goods, where service is our trademark and integrity is our foundation. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony. Want to remind you that we air live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on AM 940 and 1510 ESPN Radio. Some of you are listening to me right now on iHigh.com, which I think is really cool. However you're listening, I want to thank you for your time this morning. You can always find the links live at www.heycoachtony.com. We're talking this morning about whether or not amateur and college athletes should get paid. And granted, and I did get a couple of emails, why am I getting all upset about Dwyane Wade and Ray Allen. Well, you know what? They're not they're not amateurs. They're not college players, but they do represent the notion of what's right, getting ready to gear up for the Olympics. And that's what kind of stirred the whole pot for me. And before we went to break, I was talking about Jerry Colangelo, who is the chairman of USA Basketball. And he was interviewed this past week and talked about how USA Basketball has literally been hemorrhaging money. And since he's been there, he's quadrupled the revenue, which got them back to break even. Now, I got to tell you, I don't know if that's true or not, but I got to think, given the current climate of scandal and whatnot, he can't just be making this up. And I got to assume that there are numbers somewhere that support what he's saying. So for purposes of today's show, let me not shred the guy for that. Let's give him benefit of the doubt. So let's get back to Dwyane Wade and Ray Allen. Okay, you guys want to get paid. Where should that money come from? I mean, that's the question no one has answered yet. And even when it comes to things like paying the NCAA athletes, where does that money come from? You know what I found really amusing about Dwyane Wade's comments is one of the parts of his quotes was that he said he hasn't thought about how much players should be paid for their time. Well, what the hell kind of argument is that? I'm Dwyane Wade. Okay, we're being exploited and giving up our free time, so we should get paid. Good point, Mr. Wade. How much should you get paid? I don't know. Well, okay. I mean, where did we just get? Are you expecting someone else to carry this ball on your behalf? I mean, forget the fact that no one's going to be crying on your behalf if you're crying poverty. Just do us a favor. Don't complain unless you have a plan to fix it. And again, I'm not saying they shouldn't get paid. I got to tell you, I'm still kind of torn on this one with regards to the Olympians because there are vehicles by which these folks get paid, and it's not underneath the table. I just want to hear a solution before I cast my final vote. And by the way, Dwyane Wade, just pay me? That's not a solution. All right, 855-HEY-COACH is the studio line. We're going to continue to take your calls on this topic. But I want to move on a little bit into because there's like a Vietnam flashback. This whole Dwyane Wade argument brings me right back to the arguments we were having a year ago when we were talking about paying the college football and the basketball players. Just because there are billions of dollars flying around inside this college sports machine, guess what? That doesn't necessarily mean that money is actually liquid and that it's just out there to be doled out to people who, stick out their hands. There's a lot going on behind the scenes. But you know what? Even if there wasn't a lot going on behind the scenes, there are still some tough questions that need to be answered. And I think Steve brought up some good points. How much do you pay Andrew Luck versus Joe Schmo, the quarterback? Is there a flat rate? Or, and I know this is the case, are there going to be schools with very good TV ratings that are going to make arguments that they should get more money and therefore have more money to spend on athletes? Got to tell you, it's not a bad argument. It's tough to say if you're going to pay people, the schools with the best ratings should get the more money and in turn have more money to spend on athletes. Tough to argue with that one, right? But think about it this way. If that is the case, can't you envision a day when Alabama or LSU or Florida or Miami become the New York Yankees of college football and it's just no longer fair? I mean, think about it. How do you compete with a school that's paying kids $1 million a year if you just can't afford to do so? Now, you can bring in salary caps and things along those lines, but think about it this way. Even a perennial, I shouldn't say perennial because lately they stink, but a long-time heralded program like Notre Dame. How do you expect a top recruit to even consider freezing his butt off on the Notre Dame campus when he could be soaking up the sun at down in Miami, sitting on the beach? I mean, well, that's an interesting point. I don't know if you guys heard that Aaron Lynch. Aaron Lynch is the best, or I should say was the best defensive lineman for Notre Dame. He's defensive end, kids from Florida. Guess what? He's homesick. I don't know if homesick means he wants to go back and sit on the beach somewhere, or if he's tired of sitting in the freezing cold weather. But the bottom line is, I shouldn't say the only, but one of the brightest lights to happen to the Notre Dame football program in recent years just skipped town. I mean, you don't think that's going to affect their recruiting capabilities? But again, this all comes back to and I've said it before, I'll say it again. You want to carry the flag for these poor college athletes who don't get paid? You think they should get paid? Well, I tell you what, come up with a plan and not just a list of complaints. Now, I just caught myself. Earlier I said this brought me back to the arguments that we were having a year ago. Some of you may remember I did an entire show about whether or not college athletes should get paid. In fact, it was almost exactly a year ago. I checked on it last night. It was April 2nd of last year. At the time, HBO did an episode of Real Sports on this topic. And the whole show, I got to tell you, pretty much drove me nuts. I don't know how else to say this, but quite frankly, I'm getting a little tired of this whole argument. But it still hasn't been resolved. It's the same old thing. Last year, we were talking about Tyrone Prothro. Remember him? He was a star receiver at Alabama. And that one game, he goes up for a ball in the end zone. He lands a little funny, and the next thing you know, one part of his leg's pointing north, the other part of his leg is pointing south, and the guy just never plays football ever again. Last I heard, he was a bank teller, about a mile and a half from the campus at Alabama. Now, don't get me wrong. This was a tragedy. But what bothered me so much was that, he was asked, it was a very leading question and almost an unfair question to a guy in his position. But he was asked, of the $100-some-odd million that Alabama football took in last year, how much did he actually receive himself? Well, he paused and he did his dramatic sigh and he muttered, not a dime. Not a dime. And he said it, and this is where I start getting a little frustrated. He said it as if somebody promised him a part of that money. Or even better, he said that as if he had been lobbying to get paid since the day he signed his letter of intent. And that's what really gets me. We never hear anybody. We just talked. We talked about how these high school kids are just ridiculously out of control with the high school combine and these all-star games that are put on television. You ever see one of these guys put on their Auburn hat or their Miami hat or their Alabama hat and say, by the way, college athletes should get paid. This is unfair, so I'm relinquishing my scholarship? No. Nobody ever complains about this stuff going into the equation. They're happy that they're going to be getting a platform. Oh, and by the way, a free education. That I keep forgetting that one. The $60,000 a year education that most people are struggling to provide for their kids, yet you're getting handed it to play football. We never hear anybody complain on the way in. You know when we hear them complain? When they don't get that multi-million-dollar signing bonus on draft day. When that doesn't happen, you got these crybaby athletes who turn into, and I hate the example, but it's just what jumped into my head. They turn into the drowning victim who knows he's going down for the last time and would grab onto his mother and pull her down in an attempt to save himself. These crybabies start blowing the whistle on everyone and anyone, from boosters to athletic directors to secretaries that wouldn't go on a date with them. They're just reaching for someone to pull down because now, guess what? I didn't use my education. I don't have a degree worth of paper it's written on. And, oh, by the way, I was out, shopping from Maseratis last week, and now I'm going to be flipping burgers because I didn't do what every single person has told me to do, which is take advantage of my scholarship. You're exploited? Do yourself a favor. Turn it around and exploit the school. That's what really that just drives me nuts. All right, 855-HEY-COACH is the studio line. And here's the other thing. It is pathetic because who complains the loudest? Is it the guys who signed the multi-million-dollar deal? Obviously not. The guys who don't make it. The ones who don't beat the averages. Again, you can tell these people over and over and over again what the odds are, even in a top-ranked program, of you, A, getting drafted, and B, having any kind of decent career in the NFL or the NBA. And we're supposed to feel sorry for these guys? And what do they all say? It's not fair. Really? Really? Tell you what, ask Andrew Luck the day after the draft if he thinks it's fair. Ask RG3 if he thinks it's fair. The guys who beat the odds, you know what I was going to say what they secretly wish, but it's not so secretly. The guys who beat the odds really wish the guys who didn't beat the odds would just shut the hell up. Stop rocking the boat. Because that system works great. Andrew Luck, ask Andrew Luck what's wrong with the system. And you know what he's going to tell you? Nothing. These are selfish little babies who ignored everybody who ever told them not to rely on professional sports and to focus on their education. These are the guys who ignored the simple facts that, like I said, even in the upper echelon of college football, the odds are still against you making any kind of a living playing football. But when you wake up the day after the draft, everyone's looking for somebody to blame. I just wonder this year who the big whistleblower is going to be. There's so much scandal and stuff going on. I got to tell you, I'm curious who's going to be the big whistleblower this year. It'll be fun to see what happens. Again, you think college amateur athletes should get paid or not? I don't know, but give me a call at 855-HEY-COACH. Now, as I had alluded to, and Adam, you got to remind me when we've got a couple of minutes left before break.
Yeah, you got about a minute.
All right, so way to go, guy. All right, listen,
no problem,
that's all right. So you know what we're gonna do? I'm gonna get into our second. Athlete of the year. So it's the second winter athlete of the year is brought to you by our friends at the Bar and Grill on 7, conveniently located on the Ethan Allen Highway in Ridgefield. You talk to folks around Ridgefield, and they'll tell you that the best meal in town is at the Bar and Grill on 7. Their chef is a CIA graduate, and every meal is just top shelf. And even though it's a sports bar, what I like is they don't overdo the sports theme. Don't get me wrong. Each of their 11 TVs is always tuned into something sports related, and they'll always find a game that you want to watch. But they don't cover the walls with pennants and jerseys and stuff. And their menu items aren't named after players or teams. You know, there's no Grand Slam burger. There's no double play nachos. It's a legitimate dining experience. Our second winter athlete of the year is a kid named Sean Wilkinson from the Ridgefield High School ice hockey team. And now all of you are gasping because I'm honoring a high school hockey player. Well, this kid is something special. Ridgefield went 21-3 and beat Darien High School 3-2 for the FCIAC championship. Sean Wilkinson was named the MVP of that after scoring the game-winning goal, giving the Tigers their very first, well, I shouldn't say very first. It's the first FCIAC championship they've had since 2007. He's one of the fastest players in the state. He had 30 goals and 38 assists. He was named All-State and All-FCIAC first team. Sean's going to be attending Holy Cross College, where he was recruited, guess what, for lacrosse. So I tell you what, I'm kind of interested to see what this kid's going to be doing this spring. But still focusing on hockey, he was captain his senior year. He was MVP of Division I for all Connecticut high school hockey for 2012 season. He was MVP, obviously, of the Ridgefield High School Tigers for the last 2 years. And he made all-state first team and all-FCIAC first team, both his junior and his senior year. Great job, Sean Wilkinson. Congratulations for being one of our Hey Coach Tony Winter Athletes of the Year. And I want to remind you that, again, this segment's been sponsored by our friends at the Bar and Grill on 7, located in Ridgefield, Connecticut, considered by many to be the best meal in town. The Bar and Grill on 7 is more than a sports bar because, again, they don't overdo that sports theme. It's a legitimate dining experience. But if you want to watch a game, they'll have it for you. They've got the MLB package, the football package, the hockey package, the basketball package. It is a family-friendly atmosphere 7 days a week. But guess what? Each night after 10 o'clock, it becomes a legitimate night hotspot. Very solid open mic night each week and live music on the weekends. And I almost forgot to mention their Monster Burger Challenge. This is a 6-pound burger with 1 pound of fries. They've had 41 people try this thing. Only 4 have finished it. One was my high school prom date. She's a slob. Why do I always pick on that poor girl? Anyway, you got a half an hour to finish this 6-pound burger with 1 pound of fries. Located at 967 Ethan Allen Highway. Call the Bar and Grill on 7 at 203-438-6033 and make your reservation today. You know what? We're going to be back right after these messages. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony. Stick around.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Saturday morning, and that means Hey, Coach Tony. We're talking this morning about whether or not college and or amateur and or Olympian athletes should get paid. And we're at a point in the show where I want to state some of the obvious and some of the not so obvious. Earlier on, I did say or did kind of shine a light on the fact that Olympic athletes do get paid. Michael Phelps, if he didn't sign a single endorsement deal, he got himself a platform and he got himself $200,000. Now, don't get me wrong. He earned it. He absolutely earned it. And I think there should be some metrics in place for earning money in all this equation? Absolutely. Let me tell you a little side fact here. And Adam, do you know who Usain Bolt is?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. I'm sorry. Of course. He's the fastest man in the world.
Yeah.
And he tore it up at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, he signed what is reported to be a deal with Puma that was a $30 million shoe deal.
Whoa.
Pretty good.
Yeah, not bad.
And he, right now, is a rock star. Do you know that if you go to watch any track and field event where he is running, let me give you an interesting fact. Before the guy ties his running Pumas, he has been paid $300,000 as an appearance fee just to go to a track and field event. Now again, earned it.
No,
I really don't have a problem with this because he has earned that. And by the way, the Olympics are over, and he's now making himself a living. And let's face it, if you got a pretty face like me, it lasts forever. If you're the fastest man in the world, your shelf life, 5, 6, maybe 7 years. So I'm not saying this guy is wrong. And by the way, anyone hear Usain Bolt complaining? No. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that most people don't realize. Amateur athletes, there are legitimate vehicles for which you get paid. And now, while I hate to state the obvious, I'm going to do so because I have still not had anybody, anywhere, ever make a compelling argument against this simple statement that I make over and over and over again. I will argue that college athletes do get paid. Now, any of the parents out there who are listening to this show who have kids that are sophomores or juniors in high school are probably yelling at the radio right now in support of me. Because guess what? Does anybody have an idea of what an average college education costs right now? Any idea the kind of debt a college loan is going to burden your kid with? If I told you that by playing football or basketball or any other sport for that matter, you could eliminate that financial burden from your child, wouldn't you agree that the kid's getting paid, and by the way, getting paid handsomely? Now, I don't know about you, but unless my wife and I want to spend our golden years living on the streets, our kids are going to have to take out student loans. And if the economy doesn't change in the next 5 to 15 years, those student loans are going to be a beast. And for a long time, too.
Oh, Coach Tony.
Yes? Oh, Adam's got a phone call. He didn't kill his mic, so we're going to have a caller calling in here in just a second. By the way, the studio lines are open at 855-HEY-COACH. That's 855-439-2622. Adam, it sounds like we got somebody on the line. You didn't kill your mic in time. Who do we have?
Oh, yeah, we got Dino from Katona.
Dino? The Katona's representing this morning. All right, so I tell you what, we're going to put him on. Dino, you're on Hey Coach Tony. How you doing this morning?
Hey, Tony, how you been?
I'm great, man. So what do you got for me?
Yeah, I think I'm in the camp where, college athletes or youth athletes, they shouldn't be paid for playing. I mean, because they're not professional athletes. I mean, I think youth sports is all about the team and playing for the school pride and pride of themselves. I mean, why does so many people love the NCAA tournament? Because it's not about money. It's about kids getting together and playing for pride for themselves. Not one individual should outshine others. And I think when you start paying kids like that money, it becomes all about that, and it doesn't become about team.
Well, you know what it becomes about, Dino? It becomes about greed. And here's the thing. Yeah. It's like if I told you, and I, being a relative amateur in the radio business, if someone says, hey, Tony, I want to pay you $200,000 a year to do your show, I'd be like, wow, that's awesome. If I find out later someone was willing to give me $2 million, I go from that's awesome to that's not fair. I've been cheated. So these kids and these parents and these coaches are looking at the billions. In the case of college football, ESPN carries 7,000 games a year. They're looking at the billions of dollars. And so what happens, inevitably, it's human nature. Everyone sticks their hands out and says, where's mine? And I'm with you, Dino. I think at least, especially at the college level, two things going on here. One, You do play for the school. You do play for your pride. But again, Dino, do you agree that these kids are being? If you're a scholarship athlete, Dino, you have children?
I do.
Okay, how many kids you got?
I have 2 boys.
2 boys. Okay. Now, when these boys are ready for college, unless you're either ignorant or mentally challenged, the thought of paying for 2 college educations has to scare the snot out of you. So if I told you now, Dino, your kids are both going to get full scholarships to college, would that be a life-changing event for you?
Absolutely.
Would that be a life-changing event for the pocketbook and bank account for your 2 kids, knowing what a college loan is going to mean to them down the road when they're 30, 40 years old?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the one thing, you think about as they get in high school, and one of them's in high school, that's what you think about, the next few years, you're going to have to be starting to think about college tuition and all that, and those are big nuts these days.
Big nuts indeed. I didn't think you could say that on the radio, Dino, but thank you anyway. The point, and Dino, I really want to thank you for the call, but, boy, I wish there were more guys like Dino walking around, because what happened to the days of playing for some pride?
Right.
I'll tell you what happened to it. We put these kids at a high school level on a national platform, and guess what? ESPN is, wow, it took 40 minutes. The PC is actually booting up there, Adam. We put these kids on a national stage. We tell them you're the biggest deal ever. We let them joke around looking at 3 college hats, and we're all biting our nails. Oh, please pick Stanford. Oh, please pick Oklahoma. Go jump in a lake. Because guess what? We created this machine, and now we're wondering why the athletes are kicking back. I mean, I personally don't think college athletes should get paid any more than their scholarships. And by the way, there are plenty of other perks. I think Alabama pays something like $8,000 a day to feed their football team. I mean, free tutors, room and board. Don't tell me. Ask the parents of these athletes if those athletes are getting paid. And they're going to tell you, yes, sir, they are. Like I said, this is one of those things that I don't think is ever going to get solved. And, part of what I want to do here is I'll just go back and finish the point. You can't take a 16, 17-year-old kid, put him on a national stage, and tell him the whole world cares about what you're going to do playing football, and then complain when the kid says, okay, you're all paying attention to me, now what's in it for me? You're all making money. I don't care where the money's going. There are billions of dollars flying around. I want mine. We can't fault them for that. But I want to get back to the Olympics. By the way, 855 Hey Coach is the number here in the studio. We'll stop talking about this rock star lifestyle that we give to these college athletes, and I want to get back to the Olympics and the basketball for just a second, because Colangelo, during one of his interviews, threw a quote out there that bothered me a little bit. Basically, and I'm not quoting him, I'm going to give you his basic sentiment. He was asked if these guys should get paid. He's the chairman of USA Basketball, so why not ask him the question? And basically he said, I can see why some track guy who doesn't get $20 million a year would want to get paid, but these guys don't need it. And that, again, I'm paraphrasing. But again, Jerry, maybe yes, maybe no. I kind of poked a little fun at Adam before. You don't earn money based on how much you need. Because guess what? If that was the way the world worked, I'd be making a lot more money. Because I need it more than anybody. The fact is, like I said, Olympic athletes get paid. They already do. What we do know, and let's face it, there are a certain amount of athletes who are selling their souls in hopes they make something out of their athletic career. And part of me doesn't blame them for that. What I do blame them for is acting like something was promised to them. All right, Tyrone Prothro, I'll keep going back to him. When he was interviewed by HBO, he was crying the blues. I'm going to get to this point because I'm not going to keep relying on Adam. My computer's up and I see I got 2 minutes. So I'm actually going to hit our third Hey Coach Tony Winter Athlete of the Year. And this segment is brought to you by our friends at the United Athletic Centers. With locations in Stratford and Waterbury, United Athletic Centers is the premier destination for indoor sports. Baseball, basketball, a fitness center, football, lacrosse, soccer, volleyball, and more. Call their Stratford facility at 203-386-0449 or their Waterbury facility at 203-759-1400. But I will tell you this, whatever you do, go online and check them out at UnitedAthleticCenters.com and just take a look at how cool this amazing facility is, as well as getting your information, your directions, etc. The place is pretty amazing. Now, our third Hey Coach Tony Winter Athlete of the Year is James Jennings from St. Joseph's High School in Trumbull. The 5'7" point guard played with heart and determination while keeping his cool all season long. In fact, Jennings averaged 23 points in the final 5 games of his high school career to lead the cadets of St. Joe's to their second straight FCIAC title. Jennings earned All-State and first-team All-FCIAC honors. And what was interesting, again, if you watch this kid throughout the season, it seems that whenever St. Joe's needed a big basket, they went to Jennings. And this kid rarely disappointed. He was money. Finished his high school career averaging over 15 points and 5 assists per game. And I think we're all going to be very interested to hear where he plans to play in college. So congratulations again to James Jennings from St. Joseph's High School for being one of our triumvirate of Hey Coach Tony Winter Athletes of the Year. You guys didn't know what triumvirate meant. Anyway, I want to remind you this segment has been sponsored by United Athletic Centers of Stratford and Waterbury, the premier destination for indoor sports. Call the Stratford facility at 203-386-0449 or the Waterbury facility at 203-759-1400. And check them out at UnitedAthleticCenters.com. Very cool website. United Athletic Center's mission is to provide exceptional sport activities to everyone who utilizes their centers. Their goal is to offer all children the opportunity to learn, play, and grow, both on and off the field. They want to promote sports for life to every community member, regardless of age or athletic history. When you leave their facilities, they want you to feel rejuvenated and know that you're a part of their community. So for more information, go to www.unitedAthleticCenters.com. And whatever you do, when you go there, you make sure you tell them Coach Tony sent you. You're listening to Hey Coach Tony. Stick around. I'll be right back.
Coach Tony.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. You're with Hey Coach Tony this and every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Adam, we got to look into getting either Dell or Apple to sponsor the show because my PC has finally popped up.
I know.
50 minutes later. I am shocked. Okay. Well, thank you for dealing with that, Adam. And my understanding is we got Carol calling in. We may as well just get back to the phones at 855 Hey Coach. So let's go to Carol. Hey, Carol, you're on Hey Coach Tony. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Where are you calling in from?
Well, I'm calling in from New York City.
All right, as long as it's not Katona. Okay. So what do you got for me, Carol?
I'm listening. I listen to you. Well, I figured let's have a female on the show.
Always.
Yes, and I also would like to elaborate on this issue about these kids, these athletics, these great athletics, who do have the skill, and I feel that they should be paid.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was a track athlete, and I was very good at it. And I don't think that I was feeling, how much can I get paid for this? Or how much do I need? I was feeling like, hey, this is propaganda. I'm filling up the seats. I'm inspiring future athletics to come to this school. Others are making money off of my back. I want to get paid for my services. And you know what? I was 16 years old and thinking that way. Why shouldn't I contract and make money for my services?
Okay, now question for you, Carol. Did you receive a scholarship to college?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, you seem like a very polite lady, and so I'm going to say this very politely, but the question I have is, where were you putting butts in seats?
In the parks
that
I was playing in.
Okay.
The organization that I was playing with was able to market those seats. The newspaper, the media, they were, let's go out and watch this girl. She's like coming from behind. I mean, these are things that the economy today is very, very different from years ago. So we cannot compare. Because you said, well, what happens to the way we were before? You know what? We shouldn't go backwards. We need to go forward. We've got little kids making money in all sorts of sectors, and these kids should also be included as well. Why should the money always go to the same community?
Well, when you say community, boy, I hate to read between those lines, Carol. What community is the money always going to?
Always going to. It's always going to those same individuals that know how to beat the system. Okay?
Well, how? How do they beat the system?
I mean, how do they beat the system? They know what steps their children should be taking to get to that point to make the money.
Well, I will tell you
these are the things that we need to expose and share the information with everyone, whether they're poor or rich. So when you say how much do I need is a way of how much should I get, it's totally out of line. It should be, if I'm good, whether I'm rich or poor, I should get paid for my services, no matter how old I am.
I think you're absolutely, and by the way, while I may disagree with your outcome, I completely agree and respect what you're saying. It's why I bashed Adam before. Whether or not Dwyane Wade needs the money has nothing to do with whether or not he should or should not get paid. So I agree with you. Now, having said that, let's all remember, we live in a free market society. So I might think my show is worth that $2 million a year. Unfortunately, no one has come to me with that number yet. So the numbers that I get as we continue to expand this wonderful show are simply what I'm worth, and I either get to say yes to it or no to it. The problem, Carol, is when someone says, I'm willing to play at your school for this scholarship, and then when you graduate and you don't have a contract, you go back and complain about the last 4 years. Now, you brought up a great point about exposure, and either next week or the week following, we are going to have a college recruiting expert join me in studio to give you guys all the secrets of the trade. If you are a parent of a high school athlete and you want to know how you get exposure to colleges, to scouts, Coach Tony is going to wave the magic wand, and we're going to have that information for you. Now, I got to tell you, Carol, if you feel exploited as an athlete, I feel badly for you. But I will tell you at the same time, having been a scholarship athlete myself, I do think that the tide rises. And and all boats will rise with it. You are going to be quickly told as an athlete what you are worth, just like anything else you do in your life. So whether somebody receives or doesn't receive a scholarship. Now, back when, and I don't want to speak for how old you are, Carol, but let's assume you're closer to my age than a high school senior. When we were younger, nobody knew the tricks, and it was a lot harder to get the exposure. Right now, I got to tell you, with all the services and people who are preaching about recruiting, it is easier to get that information, and I think that will level the playing field. But this is still coming back to, Carol, people are complaining that I'm not getting enough. If you have kids and you're talking about a school that's $60,000 a year and your kid gets a scholarship, somewhere between $240,000 and $300,000 is what your kid's getting paid over 4 years. For a teenage kid, and let's do the math on that really quick, about $70,000 or so a year. Not a bad way to earn a living. Tax-free, yo.
Yeah, but that's propaganda. That scholarship, that $200,000 scholarship, could turn into $500,000 or $1 million for that institution because of the skill that child holds. That's what it's all about. It's all about money. And you know what? I have a suggestion for you. If you're bringing in a college recruiter, I suggest you bring in one from the Ivy League as well. Because in my opinion, the two of them, there'll be controversy.
Oh, absolutely. And the biggest reason?
One thing the other one doesn't agree with.
Well, that's true. And here's one of the reasons for it. And most people don't know this. Ivy League, they don't give scholarships on that. They do not give athletic scholarships.
Exactly.
So, and that's why, I mean, you talk about guys like, I mean, go through the list of and the list isn't that long. Ron Darling, pitched at Yale. There's a guy who figured out if I don't play baseball, I need an education. Think about all the people, Lynn Sanity coming out of Harvard. There are people who do this the right way, Carol. Unfortunately, I think what's happened is, guys like John Calipari, who's developing a nice little reputation for himself, he's selling the complete opposite. He's telling kids, come to my school for a year or two, and you'll get to the NBA. Mm-hmm. Now, can you argue that's good or bad? Again, it's what the kids are worth. But I got to tell you, I don't think Calipari is selling come and get a 4-year degree like Joe Paterno used to do. I really don't.
Right.
So part of this is we've all bought into this machine, Carol, and I got to tell you, this is one of the best calls I've gotten, and the fact that it came from an intelligent female athlete, I'm thrilled. Now, you're calling from New York City. Is that where you live?
Yes.
Well, I can't tell you how happy I am that the show is reaching New York City because hopefully before too long we are going to be there. But, Carol, I got to let you go. We're wrapping up the show here. Please call back. I think you had some great ideas.
I certainly will. Take care.
And
Great show.
Stay close to HeyCoachTony.com, and I'll give you the information on the recruiters when they're coming on the show. All right, folks, listen, this is going to have to wrap it up on one more stellar week of Hey Coach Tony on ESPN Radio. And you know what this all comes down to, guys? The Caliparis, the Bobby. I was going to talk about all the managers and how they've screwed up over the past few weeks. This comes down to, guess what? Jealousy. And it's jealousy on the part of us. We don't want Dwyane Wade getting paid because of what Adam said. How dare you ask for money? You make all this money. That's the real problem. I could do Bobby Valentine's job. I can go 1-5. Pay me a couple of $1 million a year. I'm bitter. All right, like I said, stay tuned in the next week or two, and we're going to have some information for you folks on the college recruiting process. As always, we appreciate the phone calls, the emails. We'll see you next week, guys. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.